Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi everyone, we are very happy to see you here today.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Daily. We're really happy you're here because today's conversation starts with something I think almost every English learner has experienced. Earlier today, I was reading your comments, and one of them really caught my attention.
Oh really? What did the person say?
The comment was simple, but I think a lot of people will relate to it. The listener wrote, "Every time I plan to practice speaking English, I end up doing something completely different."
I have to admit, I laughed when I heard that because I've done the same thing so many times. You sit down with a great plan, and 5 minutes later, you're nowhere near your English lesson.
Exactly. It usually starts with something that feels completely harmless.
Like checking one notification on your phone?
Yes, you tell yourself it'll only take a few seconds.
Then someone sends another message.
You reply to that one too.
Then YouTube somehow opens.
And suddenly, you're watching a video that has absolutely nothing to do with learning English.
The funny part is that you don't even notice how much time has passed until you look at the clock.
That's so true. Sometimes it's not even your phone. A random thought appears in your mind. Maybe you remember you need to answer an email, wash the dishes, or search for something online.
And once your attention goes somewhere else, it's surprisingly difficult to bring it back.
That's why I think today's topic is much more interesting than it sounds. We're not just talking about phones or social media.
Right. Those are only the things we can see.
There's something happening behind the scenes, and that's what I really want to explore today.
You mean the way our minds react to distractions?
Exactly. We all have the habit of getting distracted, but have you ever stopped to wonder why it happens so easily, especially when you're trying to speak English?
That's a great question, because reading English and listening to English often feel much easier. But when it's time to speak, even a tiny interruption can make your thoughts disappear.
So today's conversation isn't only about distractions. It's really about understanding why they affect our focus so much and why they seem to interrupt our English speaking practice more than we expect.
And once we understand what's really happening, finding better ways to practice English becomes much easier. Let's dive into it together.
That's an interesting point, Mike. Have you noticed that many English learners say, "I understand almost everything when I read, but I can't speak very well"? At first, that sounds a little confusing because they're learning the same language.
It does sound confusing, but the difference is time. When you're reading, nobody's waiting for your answer. If you find a difficult sentence, you can stop, read it again, look up a word, or even take a short break before you continue.
Exactly. Reading gives you time to think, but real conversations don't work that way. When someone asks you a question, they expect you to respond naturally. The conversation keeps moving whether you're ready or not.
That's where many learners begin to hesitate. They know the words somewhere in their minds, but they spend too much time searching for them. By the time they find the right sentence, the other person is already talking about something else.
And then something else happens. Many learners start translating every sentence from their own language into English before they speak.
I've seen that happen a lot. Imagine someone asks, "What are your plans for this weekend?" Instead of answering immediately, your brain starts building the perfect translation. That extra step slows everything down.
Then your confidence starts to disappear because you think you're speaking too slowly.
But the real problem isn't always your English level. Sometimes your brain is simply trying to do too many jobs at once. It's listening, translating, checking grammar, choosing vocabulary, and trying to concentrate at the same time.
That's a lot of pressure for one simple conversation.
It really is. In fact, something very similar happened to me last week. I picked up my phone because I wanted to check the time before starting my English practice. A notification appeared, and I thought, I'll read this one message. Then I noticed another one. After that, I opened social media for just a second, watched one short video, and somehow another video started playing automatically. When I finally looked at the clock again, 20 minutes had disappeared because my practice session hadn't even started yet.
I think almost everyone listening has had a moment like that.
Probably more than once.
But here's something interesting. Those distractions are easy to see because they're outside us. There's another kind that's much harder to notice.
You mean the distractions inside our own minds?
Exactly. Imagine someone asks you a simple question in English. Nobody interrupts you, your phone is silent, the room is quiet. Even then, your brain starts working overtime.
First, you overthink the grammar.
Then, you wonder if your vocabulary sounds advanced enough.
After that, you worry about making a mistake.
And suddenly, you're searching for the perfect word instead of simply speaking.
That's a kind of pressure many learners create for themselves without realizing it.
I remember giving a short presentation in English years ago. Before I even opened my mouth, I kept thinking, what if I use the wrong tense? What if I pronounce something incorrectly? By the time I started speaking, I was much more nervous than I needed to be.
That's because perfection becomes the distraction. Instead of enjoying the conversation, you're busy checking every sentence before anyone hears it.
Which usually makes us hesitate even more.
Exactly. Fluency isn't about saying everything perfectly. It's about communicating naturally. Ironically, the harder you chase perfect English, the harder it becomes to speak comfortably.
So maybe we don't need bigger vocabularies right away. Maybe we need simpler habits instead.
I completely agree. For example, when it's time to practice English, leave your phone in another room if you can.
Even 5 minutes without notifications can make a huge difference.
Another habit I like is speaking before reading. Instead of spending 20 minutes looking at grammar notes, try talking about your day first.
That's a great idea because speaking is a skill you build by actually speaking.
And don't wait until you have a full hour available. 5 focused minutes every day are much better than one long session every 2 weeks.
That's how you build a consistent routine. Small steps often lead to bigger progress than huge plans that never happen.
I also remind myself that making mistakes is part of practice, not proof that I'm failing.
Exactly. Every mistake teaches you something, but every silent moment teaches you nothing. Here's another challenge for everyone listening. Pick any simple topic. It could be your breakfast, your weekend, or your favorite movie. Then speak about it in English for 1 full minute without stopping. Don't pause to correct yourself. Just keep talking.
You'll probably notice something interesting. After the first 20 seconds, your brain starts worrying less about perfection and begins focusing on communication instead.
You know, Mike,
I think I know what you're about to say.
if you're enjoying today's conversation and it's helping you feel more confident about speaking English, don't forget to subscribe to Speak English Daily. We have new, real English conversations every week.
And we'd really love to hear from you. What's the biggest distraction that stops you from practicing or speaking English? Is it your phone, overthinking, background noise, or something completely different? Tell us in the comments because we read them all.
Now, let's get back to our conversation because we've talked about distractions and a few simple ways to manage them. But there's another piece of the puzzle that can make your English sound much more natural.
And I think our listeners are going to use these expressions almost every day.
I think so too. We've already used several expressions naturally today, and that's one of the best ways to learn English. Instead of memorizing long vocabulary lists, it's much easier to remember phrases you've already heard in a real conversation.
Exactly. Let's start with one we've said a few times already. I got distracted. Native speakers use this all the time because it's simple and natural. For example, I was reading an English article, but I got distracted by a phone call.
I like that one because it works in so many situations. Here's another expression we used. I lost my focus. Imagine you're practicing English and people nearby start talking loudly. Later, you might say, I lost my focus, so I decided to continue later.
Another useful one is I couldn't concentrate. It sounds very natural when you're explaining why something felt difficult. You could say, the cafe was so noisy that I couldn't concentrate on my lesson.
We also talked about phones, so here's another expression. My phone kept buzzing. That simply means notifications or calls kept arriving again and again. My phone kept buzzing during my online English class.
Here's one I hear almost every day. I was about to study. Maybe a friend calls you at that moment, and you say, I was about to study when my cousin invited me out.
And one of my favorites is I got carried away. It doesn't mean someone carried you somewhere. It means you became so interested in something that you forgot your original plan. For example, I got carried away watching travel videos instead of practicing English.
Notice something interesting? These expressions sound like complete ideas. Native speakers remember them as chunks instead of building every sentence word by word.
That's also true for the vocabulary we've naturally used throughout today's conversation. Think about the word distraction. It doesn't have to mean something huge. Sometimes a tiny sound or even one thought becomes a distraction.
Then there's focus. When someone says, I need to focus, they simply mean they want to give something their full attention.
Speaking of attention, that's another useful word. If your teacher says, please pay attention, they're asking you to listen carefully instead of thinking about something else.
Earlier, we mentioned that notifications can interrupt your practice. Interrupt simply means something stops what you're doing before you finished.
We also talked about learners who hesitate before answering. Usually, that's the small pause while your brain searches for words.
And don't forget overthink. I think many learners know more English than they realize, but they overthink every sentence before saying it.
That's why it's difficult to concentrate when your mind is busy checking grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary all at once.
Finally, remember carried away. That's the perfect phrase when your original plan disappears because something else grabs your attention.
Since we're talking about natural English, let's make a few sentences sound more like something you'd actually hear in everyday conversation.
Great idea. Learners often say, my phone distracted me. There's nothing wrong with it, but in casual conversation, you'll often hear, I got distracted by my phone. It sounds more personal and more natural.
Here's another one. Instead of saying, I cannot focus, most native speakers simply say, I can't stay focused. That's a phrase you'll hear in schools, offices, and everyday conversations.
I also hear learners say, I think too much. People will understand you, but a more natural choice is, I tend to overthink. That expression explains a habit instead of one single moment.
And instead of saying, I forgot studying, a much smoother expression is, I got carried away. It tells the listener exactly what happened without sounding unnatural.
That's why learning real expressions is so powerful. You're not just learning vocabulary, you're learning how people actually speak in everyday life. And little by little, those natural phrases begin to become part of your own English too.
All this talk about distractions has given me an idea, Mike. Why don't we pretend we're about to practice English together and see what happens?
That sounds like fun. Okay, I've got my notebook, my laptop is open, and I'm finally ready to stay focused.
Great. Let's spend the next few minutes speaking only in English.
Perfect. I was about to study, so this is the right time to start.
Wonderful. Tell me something interesting you did this morning.
Well, this morning Oh, wait a second. My phone keeps buzzing. Someone must be sending a lot of messages today.
Don't look at it.
I'm trying not to, but it's surprisingly tempting.
Just ignore it for now. The messages will still be there later.
You're right. Okay, let me concentrate again. This morning, I went for a walk before breakfast because the weather was beautiful.
Nice. And how did it make you feel?
Relaxed. Oh, now someone's at the door.
Seriously? That timing couldn't be worse.
I'll be right back.
See? That's another real-life interruption. Sometimes you don't choose the distraction. It simply appears.
I'm back. It was just a package delivery.
Great. Let's continue. What were you saying?
I was talking about my morning walk. It helped me clear my mind before work.
That's a healthy habit.
Thanks. Oh no, now my laptop just made a notification sound.
Don't even look at the screen.
I'm not going to. If I open one email, I'll probably get carried away checking the rest.
Exactly.
Wait, do you smell coffee?
I do. Someone must be making fresh coffee in the kitchen.
Now I'm thinking about coffee instead of English.
That's another distraction.
Anna,
Yes?
I think your family is calling you.
They are. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. It's funny how many little things can interrupt a simple conversation.
And none of them seemed like a big deal by themselves, but together they kept pulling our attention in different directions.
The good news is we came back every single time. That's what really matters.
Exactly. Losing your focus for a moment doesn't mean you failed. The important thing is returning to your practice instead of giving up completely.
So before we finish today, let me ask you something. Which distraction is the hardest for you to avoid?
Honestly, my phone. I always think I'll check one quick notification and somehow 10 minutes disappear. This week, I'm going to leave it in another room whenever I practice English. I think that simple routine will help me stay focused.
That's a great plan. For me, the biggest challenge is overthinking. Sometimes I spend too much time trying to build the perfect sentence instead of simply speaking. This week, I want to remind myself that progress is more important than perfection.
I like that. Every conversation is another chance to improve your confidence, even if you make a few mistakes along the way.
And that's something we'd love our listeners to remember too. You don't need a perfect environment, perfect grammar, or perfect pronunciation before you start speaking. Just give yourself a few minutes every day. Pay attention to real English and keep practicing consistently.
Little by little, those small habits become a routine. Your vocabulary grows, your confidence grows, and speaking English starts to feel much more natural.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We always enjoy these conversations, and we hope you learned a few expressions you can use in your own English.
Keep practicing, stay curious, don't let everyday distractions stop your progress, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.